The space station called Velos was the largest structure Kang Daeho had ever seen. It floated in the darkness between three star systems, a meeting place for dozens of alien species. Daeho had been stuck here for 11 days now, ever since pirates destroyed his cargo ship and left him drifting in an escape pod. He was 34 years old, a mechanic and former military engineer from Korea. He had joined a merchant crew to see the galaxy after humanity made first contact with alien life 18 months ago. Now he just wanted to go home. The problem was simple. He had no money, no ship, and no way to buy passage back to Earth. The station had rules about such things. Without citizenship or credits, he could not leave. Daeho walked into the main cantina, a huge room filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some looked like nothing he could describe. But one species stood out above all others. The Volari. They were warrior women. Every single one of them. They stood 7 feet tall on average, with blue-gray skin and muscles that looked carved from stone. Their empire controlled 40 star systems, and their military was feared across the galaxy. Daeho had heard stories about them. They valued strength above everything else. They believed that combat was the truest test of any species, and they thought humans were pathetic. Daeho found an empty table in the corner and sat down. He ordered the cheapest drink available and tried to figure out his next move. He had skills. He could fix almost anything. But the station already had mechanics, and none of them were hiring humans. A shadow fell over his table. Daeho looked up and saw 3 Volari warriors standing in front of him. The one in the middle wore the markings of a sub-commander. Her name, he would later learn, was Narration. She was tall even for her kind, with cold eyes and a scar across her jaw. "Is this the human?" Nira asked her companions. She spoke the common galactic language, which Daeho's translator chip converted to Korean in his ear. "It appears so," one of the others said. "Small, isn't it?" Nira leaned down until her face was close to Daeho's. "I've never seen one of your kind in person. You are even weaker than the report suggested. How do you survive on your planet? Do you hide in caves and wait for predators to pass?" Daeho took a sip of his drink. "We don't have many predators left. We killed most of them." Nero laughed. It was not a friendly sound. "You? Kill predators? With what? Your tiny hands? Your dull teeth?" She grabbed his arm and squeezed. "There is no muscle here. Just soft tissue waiting to be torn." Daeho did not pull away. He had dealt with bullies before. They were the same everywhere, it seemed. Even in space. "I need to go," he said calmly. "Thank you for your time." He tried to stand, but Nira pushed him back down. "You go when I say you go, little creature." She looked around the cantina. Many aliens had stopped to watch. "Do you know what we do here on Velos? We hold the proving trials. Every species that wants to be respected must send warriors to compete. They fight, they survive, they prove their worth." She leaned closer. "Humans have never entered the trials. Do you know why?" Daeho said nothing. "Because everyone knows you would die in the first hour. Your species is famous now. Human. Famous for being the weakest civilization ever discovered. Soft-boned prey animals who somehow learned to build ships." The other Volari laughed. "I challenge you," Nira said loudly, so everyone could hear. "Enter the proving trials. Show us what humans can do." She smiled with sharp teeth. "Unless you are as cowardly as you are weak." Daeho looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked around the cantina at all the aliens watching him. He saw their expressions: amusement, pity, contempt. He thought about his situation. No money, no ship, no way home. Then he remembered something he had read about the trials. Winners earn citizenship. Citizens could travel freely. Citizens could go home. What do I get if I complete the trials? He asked. Nira blinked. She had not expected him to engage. Citizenship. Passage rights. Honor. She laughed again. But you will not complete them. You will not survive the first day. And if I refuse, then you stay here forever, little human, begging for scraps until someone takes pity and spaces you. Deho finished his drink and set down the empty glass. Where do I sign up? The cantina went silent. Nira stared at him. You cannot be serious. I am serious. Deho stood up. He barely reached her shoulder. Tell me where to register. For a moment, Nira seemed unsure. Then she smiled again, crueler than before. Follow me, human. I will enjoy watching you die. She led him through the station to a large hall where officials processed combat registrations. Deho answered their questions, provided his identification, and signed his name on the digital contract. The official looked at him with what might have been pity. You understand the trials are often fatal? You understand that no species from a planet with your gravity has ever completed all 5? I understand, Deho said. Very well. The first trial begins in 2 days. May your death be quick. Deho walked out of the hall. Behind him, Nira was already telling her companions about the entertainment they would soon enjoy. Across the hall, an older Velari watched the whole scene. Her name was Commander Thiravus, leader of the Velari forces on Velos. She had come to check on routine business. But now she found herself staring at the small human who walked away from the registration desk. He did not look afraid. He did not look angry. He did not look like a man who had just signed his own death warrant. He looked calm. Thyra frowned. She had seen many species enter the trials. The weak ones either refused or trembled when they signed. The strong ones boasted and made threats. This human did neither. Interesting, she said to herself. She pulled up his file on her datapad. Kang Deho, mechanic, former military engineer. Stranded by pirates. Nothing remarkable, but something about him made her curious. She would watch his trials carefully. In his small rented room that night. Deho sat on the edge of his bed and stared at the wall. He had 2 days to prepare for something that had killed hundreds of aliens stronger than him. He thought about his grandmother. Back in Korea, she had survived the war when she was young. She had raised 4 children alone after his grandfather died. She had told him once that the secret to surviving anything was simple. Never stop moving forward, she had said. Even when you are tired. Even when you are hurt. The moment you stop is the moment you die. Deho lay down and closed his eyes. He did not know if he would survive the trials. But he knew one thing for certain. He was not going to give up without a fight. 3 days passed before the second trial. Deho spent most of that time sleeping and eating. Hana checked on him every few hours, making sure his body was recovering properly. Your species is strange, she told him on the second day. You heal faster than most aliens I have treated. Your body repairs itself like it expects to be damaged regularly. We evolved on a dangerous world, Deho said. Everything on Earth tried to kill us at some point. On the day before the second trial, something unexpected happened. Ambassador Park Jun-sik arrived at Station VELOS. He was Earth's official representative to the galactic community, a calm man in his 50s who had spent 20 years as a diplomat. He found Deho in the medical bay and sat beside his bed. I heard what you did, the ambassador said. The whole galaxy is talking about it. I just survived, Deho said. Nothing special. You do not understand. Park leaned forward. For 18 months, other species have treated humanity like children. They think we are weak, stupid, and unimportant. Your survival is the first time any human has proven them wrong. I have 4 more trials. I know. And I will be watching every one. Park stood up. Whatever happens, you have already changed how they see us. Remember that. He left, and Deho was alone with his thoughts. That same night, Elder Myra visited Commander Thyra in her private quarters. She carried a datapad filled with ancient files. You need to see this, Myra said. I found the old reports about Earth. Thyra read through the files slowly. Her expression changed as she went deeper. When she finished, she set down the pad and stared at the wall. 40,000 years, she said quietly. We knew about them for 40,000 years, and we buried the information. Our ancestors were afraid, Myra said. They saw something in humans that disturbed them. Persistent predators. Thyra spoke the words like a curse. They did not hunt like normal creatures. They did not use speed or strength or ambush. They simply followed their prey until it died from exhaustion. And now one of them is in our trials. Thyra was silent for a long moment. The second trial is tomorrow. Combat against arena beasts. Let us see what he does. The second trial was simple in concept, but deadly in practice. Each contestant faced a creature from the arena's collection of dangerous animals. Victory meant killing or subduing the creature. Defeat meant death. The Valari went first. They faced massive beasts with claws and fangs and armored hides. They defeated them through raw strength, snapping necks and breaking bones with their powerful hands. The crowd cheered for each victory. Then it was Deho's turn. They released a creature called a thornback. It was twice his size, covered in sharp spines, with jaws that could crush metal. It was fast, vicious, and had killed 14 contestants in previous trials. The crowd laughed. This would finally be the end of the human. Deho stood in the center of the arena and watched the creature approach. He did not run. He did not attack. He simply waited. The thornback charged. Deho moved at the last moment. Not far, just enough to avoid the attack. The creature crashed into the space where he had been standing. It turned and charged again. Deho dodged again. This happened over and over. The thornback attacked. Deho moved. The creature missed. The pattern repeated. The crowd grew quiet. They did not understand what they were seeing. What is he doing? Nira demanded from the viewing box. Why does he not fight? He is fighting, Thyra said softly. Just not the way we do. 30 minutes passed. The thornback was breathing heavily now. Its charges were slower. Its movements were clumsy. 1 hour passed. The creature was staggering. Foam dripped from its mouth. Its muscles were failing. Deho had not stopped moving. He was tired. Yes. He was sweating, and his legs ached. But he was still standing, still dodging, still wearing down his enemy. At the 90-minute mark, he attacked for the first time. He struck the creature's knee with a metal bar he had picked up earlier. The joint collapsed. The thornback fell. Deho struck again, hitting the same spot on the other leg. The creature could not stand. It lay on the ground, exhausted and crippled, unable to continue. The horn sounded. The trial was over. The crowd did not cheer. They sat in stunned silence. He did not overpower it, someone whispered. He exhausted it. Hana found Deho after the trial. She was with Kes, the young Valari he had helped during the first trial. Kes looked shaken. I do not understand, Kes said. How did you do that? No one fights like that. Humans do, Hana explained. Our ancestors hunted this way on Earth. They would chase animals for days across open ground. They did not need to be faster or stronger. They just needed to keep going after the prey stopped. Kes stared at Deho with new eyes. Your species chase things to death. We still can, Deho said. It is built into our bodies. Our legs are designed for long-distance running. Our sweat keeps us cool when other animals overheat. Our hearts are strong enough to pump blood for hours without stopping. That is. Kess searched for the right word. That is terrifying. In her quarters, Thyra watched the recording of the trial over and over. She saw the moment when understanding crossed the faces in the crowd. The moment when they realized they had been wrong about humans. This species was not weak. It was different, and different could be far more dangerous than weak. Her door chimed. She opened it to find Deho standing outside. "Commander Thyra," he said. "You wanted to see me?" She had sent the request hours ago after the trial ended. She had expected him to be recovering, not walking the corridors. "You should be resting," she said. "I will rest later." "What did you want to discuss?" Thyra studied him for a long moment. He was small and soft and fragile-looking. But she no longer saw weakness when she looked at him. She saw something else entirely. "I want to know what you are," she said finally. Deho met her eyes without flinching. "I am tired, but I am not finished." He turned and walked away, leaving Thyra alone with her thoughts. She had been a warrior for over 100 years. She had faced enemies that could tear her apart with their bare hands. She had never been afraid of any of them, but for the first time in her long life, she felt something close to fear when she looked at the small human walking down the corridor, and she did not like that feeling at all. The morning of the first trial came quickly. Deho woke before dawn and did what he always did. He stretched his muscles, ate a simple meal, and prepared his mind for what was coming. A knock came at his door. He opened it to find a woman standing there. She was Korean like him, with short hair and worried eyes. Her name was Yoon Ha-na, and she wore the badge of a xenobiologist. "You are Kang Deho?" she asked. "The human who entered the trials?" "I am. Are you insane?" Deho smiled slightly. "Probably. Do you want to come in?" Hana stepped inside and immediately began talking. "I work in the medical bay here. I have studied every species that has entered these trials in the last 10 years. Do you know what I found?" "Tell me." "No species from a planet with Earth's gravity and oxygen levels has ever completed all 5 trials. The closest was a group from Kepler 442b. They made it to the 4th trial before dying. How encouraging. This is not a joke." Hana grabbed his arm. "The Valari designed these trials to prove their superiority. The challenges favor their biology. They want other species to fail." Deho nodded slowly. "Then why are you here? To convince me to quit?" Hana was quiet for a moment. "No, I know you will not quit. I can see it in your eyes." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small medical kit. "I am here because someone should help you, and because I am tired of watching humans be treated like animals." Deho took the kit. "Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Just survive." The first trial was called the Survival Ring. It was held in a massive arena that could change its environment at will. The challenge was simple. Stay alive for 72 hours while the arena tried to kill you. 20 contestants entered the ring. 15 were Valari warriors eager to prove themselves. 3 were from other species. And then there was Day-Ho Dot. The crowd that gathered to watch was enormous. Thousands of aliens filled the stands. Many had come specifically to see the human die. Commander Thyra watched from a private viewing box. Sub-Commander Nira stood beside her, smiling. "How long do you think he will last?" Nira asked. "Not long," Thyra said. But she kept her eyes on the small human standing among the giants. A horn sounded. The trial began. For the first 6 hours, the arena was hot. The temperature rose to levels that would kill most humans within an hour. The Valari barely noticed. Their bodies were built for heat. Deho felt the heat crushing him. Sweat poured from his skin. His throat burned. His vision blurred, but he did not stop. He found shade where he could. He removed his outer clothing to cool his body. He remembered what he had learned in military survival training. The human body could cool itself through sweat. It was a gift that most species did not have. He kept sweating. He kept breathing. He survived at hour 12. The temperature dropped. It fell so fast and so far that frost formed on the ground within minutes. The arena became a frozen wasteland. Some of the Valari struggled now. Their bodies were strong but not flexible. They could handle heat or cold, but not sudden changes between them. Deho shivered. His body shook violently as it tried to generate warmth. He did not fight the shivering. He welcomed it. This was another human gift. The ability to create heat through muscle movement. He kept moving. He rubbed his arms. He jumped in place. He did not let his core temperature drop. At hour 24, the atmosphere changed. A toxic gas filled the arena. Not enough to kill immediately, but enough to weaken anyone who breathed it. The Valari had filters built into their bodies. They barely noticed. Deho covered his mouth with cloth and took shallow breaths. He remembered that humans could hold their breath for minutes at a time if needed. He timed his breathing. He moved to areas where the gas was thinner. He survived. At hour 36, gravity disappeared. The arena became a zero-gravity environment. Objects floated. Contestants floated. Movement became almost impossible. The Valari had trained for this. They used walls and surfaces to push themselves around. Deho had never experienced zero gravity before. He tumbled. He spun. He grabbed at anything he could reach, but he was a mechanic. He understood physics. He learned quickly how to use objects as anchors, how to push off surfaces, how to control his movement. At hour 48, something unexpected happened. A young Valari warrior named Kes was struggling. She had been strong in the heat and cold, but the gas had weakened her lungs, and the zero gravity was making it worse. She floated near Deho, barely conscious. Deho watched her for a moment. He remembered that she had laughed at him when he registered for the trials. She had called him a walking corpse. He grabbed her arm and pulled her to a stable surface. He showed her how to recycle water from the air using condensation. He shared the technique that was keeping him alive. Kes stared at him with confusion. "Why are you helping me?" "Because you need help," Deho said, simply. In the viewing box, Thera leaned forward. She had never seen a contestant help another during the trials. It was not forbidden, but it was not done. The trials were about individual strength. "What is he doing?" Nira demanded. "Is he trying to make allies? Does he think this will save him?" Thera said nothing. She was thinking about something she had read once, long ago. A report about Earth's predators that had disturbed the Valari scientists who wrote it. At hour 60, 3 Valari contestants collapsed. Their bodies had failed from the constant environmental changes. The medical teams pulled them from the arena. Deho was still standing. At hour 72, the horn sounded again. The trial was over. 12 contestants remained alive and conscious. Among them was the human. The crowd fell silent. They had expected to watch him die within hours. Instead, he had outlasted 8 others, including 3 Valari warriors. Aho walked out of the arena on shaking legs. He was dehydrated, exhausted, and covered in sweat and frost and grime. But he was alive. Hana was waiting for him outside. She grabbed him before he could fall and helped him to the medical bay. "How?" She kept asking. "How did you survive?" "Humans are adaptable," Deho said weakly. "We do not do one thing well. We do many things well enough." In her quarters that night, Elder Mirathen searched through ancient records. She was the oldest Valari on the station, a historian who remembered things others had forgotten. She found what she was looking for. A report from 40,000 years ago When Valari explorers had first visited Earth, the report described the primitive humans they had observed. It described how these weak, slow creatures hunted animals much larger and faster than themselves. They did not ambush their prey. They did not trap it. They simply followed it. They walked after it for hours, then days. They never stopped. They never rested. They followed until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. The report had been classified. The label read, "Existential Concern." Mira closed the file and sat in the darkness for a long time. The human had survived the first trial. There were 4 more to go. 2 days after the second trial, Thyra summoned Deho to her private quarters again. This time, she did not stand at a distance. She sat down across from him and poured 2 glasses of a Valari drink. "I have been thinking about you," she said. "About your species. About what you represent. And what do I represent?" Thyra was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke in a voice that was almost soft. "When I was young, we were taught that strength was everything. That the strong survived and the weak perished. That this was the natural order of the universe. Many species believe that. Yes, but we believe it more than most." Thyra looked at her hands. They were large enough to crush Deho's skull without effort. "Do you know why the Valari became warriors?" "No, because we were conquered once." She spoke the words like they were poison. "Long ago, before we spread to the stars, another species came to our world. They were stronger than us, faster, more brutal. They enslaved us for 300 years. Deho said nothing. He simply listened. When we finally broke free, we swore we would never be weak again. We built our entire civilization around strength. We bred ourselves to be larger, more powerful. We trained from birth to fight. We conquered others before they could conquer us. And now?" Thyra met his eyes. "Now I watch a small, soft creature from a distant world survive trials designed to prove our superiority. And I wonder if we understood strength at all." Deho finished his drink. "Strength comes in many forms, Commander. Your people learned one kind. Mine learned another. What kind did your people learn? The kind that does not stop. Even when we should. Even when it hurts. Even when everyone says it is impossible." He set down his glass. "We are not strong the way you are. We break more easily. We die more quickly. But we get back up more times than anyone expects." Thyra nodded slowly. "The third trial is tomorrow. Team combat. You have been assigned to the Reject Squad. I know. The Council did this deliberately. They gave you the weakest teammates. Wounded Valari. A timid species called the Moss. Even Kess, who they consider tainted because you helped her." Thyra's jaw tightened. "They expect you to fail. They want you to fail. I understand. Your opponents will be Nira's elite squad. The best warriors on this station." Deho stood up. "Thank you for telling me. You are not worried?" He paused at the door. "I was a military engineer before I became a mechanic." "Do you know what engineers do, Commander?" "We solve problems. We find ways to make weak things work together to become strong. That is what I will do tomorrow." He left, and Thyra sat alone for a long time. The third trial took place in a massive arena filled with obstacles, trenches, and cover positions. 2 teams would fight until one side could no longer continue. Weapons were allowed. Killing was not forbidden. Deho's team gathered in the preparation room. He looked at each of them in turn. There was Kess, the young Valari who had been marked as weak because of her association with him. There were 2 older Valari warriors, both recovering from injuries suffered in previous battles. And there were 3 members of the Moss, a species known for their ability to blend into their environment. The Moss were considered cowards by the Valari because they preferred to hide rather than fight. "We are going to lose," one of the injured Valari said. "Nara's team is twice as strong as all of us combined." "Then we will not fight like they expect," Deho said. Everyone looked at him. The Valari way of combat is direct confrontation. Strength against strength. Power against power. He picked up a map of the arena and spread it on the table. "We will not fight that way. We will fight my way." He pointed to various positions on the map. "The moss will spread out and create confusion. Your camouflage abilities are not weakness. They are your greatest weapon. You will appear, attack, and disappear before they can respond." The moss looked at each other with surprise. No one had ever called their abilities a weapon before. "The injured warriors will hold these 3 positions." Deho pointed to defensible spots on the map. "You do not need to attack. You only need to survive. Make them come to you. Make them waste energy trying to reach you." The older Valari frowned but nodded. "Kes will be our mobile striker. You are fast and you know how Nira thinks. You will hit their weak points and retreat before they can trap you." "And what will you do?" Kes asked. Deho smiled slightly. "I will be the bait." The trial began. Nira's team charged forward as expected, moving in a perfect formation designed to crush any opposition. They expected to find the Reject Squad cowering or trying to mount a pathetic defense. Instead, they found chaos. The moss appeared from nowhere, striking quickly and vanishing. Nira's warriors could not catch them, could not predict where they would appear next. It was like fighting shadows. The injured Valari held their position stubbornly. Nira sent warriors to overwhelm them, but the defensive spots Deho had chosen were perfect. Every attack cost the elite squad more energy than it gained. Kes moved like lightning, appearing at the edges of the battle to strike in exposed flanks, then retreating before anyone could catch her. And Deho ran. He ran across the arena, drawing attention, making noise, forcing Nira's warriors to chase him. He was slow compared to them. They should have caught him easily, but the arena was full of obstacles. Deho knew how to use terrain. He led them through tight spaces where their size was a disadvantage. He doubled back. He climbed over barriers they had to go around. He kept just ahead of them, making them burn energy trying to catch him. An hour into the trial, Nira's squad was exhausted and frustrated. They had expected a quick victory. Instead, they were scattered across the arena, chasing targets that would not stand still and fighting an enemy that would not play by the rules. "This is not combat," Nira screamed. "This is cowardice." But the crowd in the stands was not calling it cowardice. They were watching with fascination as the Reject Squad slowly, methodically took apart the elite warriors. One by one, Nira's team members fell. Not from powerful blows or overwhelming force, but from exhaustion, from frustration, from mistakes made because they were tired and angry. When the horn finally sounded, only 3 members of Nira's squad remained standing. All 7 members of Deho's team were still in the fight. The Reject Squad had won. The crowd roared. Not all of them were cheering for Deho, but many were. They had never seen anything like this. They had watched the Valari way of war being dismantled by something completely different. Nira stood in the center of the arena, her face twisted with rage. She looked at Deho across the distance between them. "This is not over, human," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I demand a modification to the 5th trial. Direct combat. You and me. If I win, humans are permanently barred from citizenship." The crowd fell silent. Thyra stood up in the viewing box. She could stop this. She could refuse the modification, but she could see the look in Deho's eyes. He was not afraid. He was not angry. He was ready. "The modification is granted," she announced. "The 5th trial will be single combat. Sub-Commander Nira against the human." Deho nodded once. He had 2 days to prepare for the fight of his life. The night before the 5th trial, Hana and Cass came to Deho's room. They found him sitting calmly, eating a simple meal as if nothing was wrong. "You cannot do this," Hana said. "Nira will kill you. She is the second best fighter among the Valari. You saw how strong she is." "I saw," Deho said. "Then withdraw. You have already proven yourself. You completed 4 trials. No one will think less of you. The Council will ban humans from citizenship forever if I withdraw. Everything I did will mean nothing." Deho looked at them both. "This is not just about me anymore. It is about every human who comes after me." Cass knelt beside him. "I have watched Nira fight for years. She is brutal. She shows no mercy. She will not stop until you are broken." "Good," Deho said quietly. "Then she will understand what it feels like." The Grand Arena was the largest structure on Station Velos. It could hold 50,000 spectators, and every seat was filled. The fight was being broadcast across 200 star systems. Billions of beings were watching. Ambassador Park sat in the diplomatic section, his face carefully neutral. He had spoken with Deho that morning, offering one last chance to withdraw. Deho had refused. Commander Thera stood at the edge of the arena. She had not slept well. She kept thinking about what she had learned about humans, about persistent predators, about creatures that did not know how to quit. Elder Mira sat in the upper galleries, clutching the ancient reports about Earth. She had read them so many times that she had memorized every word. Nira entered the arena first. She was enormous, muscles rippling beneath her blue-gray skin. She carried no weapons. She did not need them. Her hands had killed dozens of enemies in single combat. The crowd cheered for her. She was their champion, their proof that Valari's strength was supreme. Then Deho entered. The cheering stopped. He looked so small, so fragile, so easy to break. He walked to the center of the arena and faced Nira. She towered over him by almost 2 feet. Her arms were as thick as his legs. Her hands could wrap around his entire head. "You should have stayed hidden with the other prey animals," Nira said. "Now I will show the galaxy what humans truly are." Deho said nothing. He simply raised his hands and waited. The horn sounded. The fight began. Nira attacked immediately. She was fast, faster than anything her size should be. Her fist struck Deho in the chest before he could dodge. He flew backward and hit the ground hard. The crowd gasped. That single blow would have killed most creatures. But Deho got up. Nira struck again. She hit his shoulder, his side, his face. Each blow was devastating. Each blow should have ended the fight. Deho kept getting up. Blood ran from his nose and mouth. His left arm hung at a strange angle. His breathing was ragged and painful. He kept getting up. "Stay down." Nira screamed. She hit him again, a brutal strike to the ribs. Something cracked inside him. He fell to his knees, gasping. The crowd was silent now. This was not a fight. It was torture. But Deho got up. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Nira had landed dozens of blows, each one powerful enough to break bones. Deho was covered in blood. His face was swollen. His arm was definitely broken. He kept getting up. Nira was breathing heavily now. Her explosive strength was designed for quick fights, overwhelming victories. It was not designed for this. For an opponent who would not stay down. "What are you?" she demanded. "What are you?" Deho spat blood onto the ground. "I am human. We do not know how to quit." He threw a punch. It was slow, weak, pathetic compared to her blows. But it landed on her jaw. She staggered back in surprise. 15 minutes in, Nira was gasping for air. Her muscles were burning. She had never fought this long before. She had never needed to. Daiho was barely standing. One arm was useless. His ribs were broken. Blood dripped from a dozen cuts. But he was still moving forward. Nira hit him again, putting all her remaining strength into the blow. He fell hard and did not move. The crowd leaned forward. Finally, it was over. Daiho stirred. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up with his one good arm. He got to his knees, then to his feet. He raised his broken body and faced her again. Why? Nira's voice cracked. Why will you not stay down? Because my grandmother survived a war, Daiho said, his voice barely a whisper. Because my ancestors chased prey across continents until the prey gave up. Because every human who ever lived learned the same lesson. The moment you stop is the moment you die. He took a step forward. Nira tried to raise her fists, but her arms were shaking. Her muscles had nothing left. She had spent everything trying to destroy him, and he was still coming. She threw one last punch. It was slow, weak. Daiho caught it with his good hand, and Nira collapsed. Her legs gave out. Her body failed. She fell to her knees, then onto her side, completely exhausted. Daiho stood over her, swaying. Blood ran down his face. His broken arm hung uselessly. He could barely breathe, but he was standing. The arena was completely silent. 50,000 spectators sat in stunned disbelief. Then Daiho did something no one expected. He knelt down beside Nira and extended his unbroken hand. Get up, he said. You are stronger than this. Nira stared at him. Her greatest enemy, the creature she had mocked and hated and tried to destroy, was offering to help her rise. Slowly, she took his hand. He pulled her up, and they stood together in the center of the arena. The crowd exploded. Not with the cheers of victory or defeat, but with something deeper. Something that had no name. Recognition, perhaps. Understanding. Commander Thyra stepped forward into the arena. Her voice carried across the vast space. The human has completed all 5 trials. By our own laws, by our own traditions, he has earned the right to citizenship, to passage, to respect. She paused, looking at Daiho with something close to admiration. And I hereby declare that humans are worthy allies of the Valari people. She tore up the citizenship restriction that Nira had demanded. The crowd roared again. Weeks later, Daiho stood at the viewport of a transport ship, watching the stars drift by. His arm was in a healing cast. His ribs were wrapped. His face was still bruised, but he was going home. Hadash stood beside him, also returning to Earth. Cass was with them, granted special permission to visit the human homeworld. I want to see the mountains, Cass said. The ones your ancestors crossed on foot. Daiho smiled. I will show you. And I will tell you about my grandmother, who crossed mountains of her own. Behind them, a news broadcast played on the ship's screen. It showed the fight, looping endlessly. Daiho getting knocked down. Daiho getting up. Over and over again. The headline read, The Species That Does Not Stop. Elder Mira watched the same broadcast from her quarters on Station Velos. She spoke softly to herself. Words that would be quoted for generations to come. They mocked the humans for being soft. They did not understand. Soft things bend. They do not break. She closed her eyes and thought about the future. About what would happen when humans and Valari fought side by side, instead of against each other. She thought it would be glorious and terrifying. On the transport ship, Daiho closed his eyes and finally allowed himself to rest. He dreamed of mountains, of his grandmother's voice, of a galaxy that had finally learned what humanity could do, not because humans were the strongest, but because they never, ever stopped.